Hey, this is Andy Brown, and in this follow along, we're going to take a look at S3 event notifications. So S3 event notifications allows you to listen to events and then trigger another service, but really it's saying it's passing that information to a destination. So I have a bunch of buckets here. I'm just showing you in the UI really quickly to get you a visual in terms of how this works. We're going to do it programmatically though. So if I go ahead and say create event notification, you notice we can put a name, we can say only apply to particular prefixes or suffixes, we can choose the event type, so only happen on a post, or maybe an object when an object is removed or restored, or an ACL, or object tagging. Lots of different options that could occur here. And we can send it to a Lambda, an SNS topic, an SQSQ. We can specify a Lambda function here, and respectively the other ones based on what we select. There is also another option where we can use Event Bridge. So if we go down here, notice here it says for additional capabilities use Event Bridge. I guess, is it using S3 event notifications? I believe it is. At scale using S3 event notifications. And honestly, event notifications might be using Event Bridge underneath, and it's more of a simplified way. Send notifications to Amazon Event Bridge for all buckets. So if we were to turn that on, I imagine that we'd have more configuration options there. So what we're going to do is go into our repository, and I'm making a new folder here. And this one is going to be called Event Notifications. And I think that I want to go ahead and do something with IAC. So we could use Terraform, we could use CloudFormation. I'm going to use Terraform this time. So we'll go ahead and do that. And of course, I've showed you how to set up Terraform, so you should know how to do that. And we're going to go over and type in Terraform provider or Terraform registry. And we'll go ahead and grab the AWS registry or provider information. So we'll grab that really quickly here. I'm going to cd into the correct directory so that we can go ahead and initialize this directory. So let's say Terraform init. And it's saying it does not detect that command. Is Terraform over here? It looked like it ran into an issue when it installed. I have these bin scripts here, so I'll just run it again and see what happens. I'm just going to cd back into the correct directory here. I'm just going to go bin, bin. Oh, I got to go up a directory, sorry. Bin, Terraform CLI. Maybe there's something wrong with my script. It should work. Sometimes these things get janked and you just have to tweak them because, you know, Terraform can change or other stuff can change. So that should have installed with no issue, but whatever. We're fine now. So we'll go into S3 and then back into event notifications. We'll type in clear. I'm going to type in Terraform init to initialize that project. It's going to pick up the configuration from this because we set our envars in here. I did this previously when I first set up Gitpod. If you're not using Gitpod, you'll have to configure this. And if you are not sure how to do that, if you go to the documentation on this page, it talks about the different methods for configuration for authentication. And so the one I'm using right now is environment variables. Normally, when you're locally developing, you're going to use the configuration files, or maybe it's the credential files. But when you're in a cloud developer environment, it's always going to be environment variables. So you'll have to figure out what's going to work for you. So what I want to do here is I want to create a bucket. So we'll go back to the documentation here. I'm scrolling on down and looking for S3. And we're going to go to S3 bucket. I'm also just going to double check here on the left-hand side for additional configurations. So I'm looking for event notifications. I'm just seeing if it's separate. What's interesting, when you use CloudFormation, so we say S3 CloudFormation, all this is under the same object. So when you're doing this, notice that these are all the properties here under a single resource. In Terraform, they're broken up into separate blocks, and that's totally fine. It's just a different way of doing things. But what I'm carefully looking for here is the event notifications. So there's somewhere here. I think it would be this one here. So I'm going to open that in a new tab. But we are going to need a bucket to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I'll go down below and paste this in here. I'm not going to supply a bucket name because the bucket name will be randomly generated, because that is how it works if you do not supply a name. I'm going to name it default. This is a good practice in Terraform. If you have a very small project and you have everything default, then your life will be a lot easier. When your project grows, you'll have to change it a bit. So we have that. Let's go over and look at bucket notifications. So here we have a lot of stuff going on here. Here we have an SNS topic. Oh, you have to create one first. That's right. But let's grab this block, which is for creating the notification. I'm going to go ahead and copy this link up here. And then we're going to go ahead and make a comment here so we can find this stuff a lot easier. And would it be easier if we use something like a coding assistant? Sure, but I don't know. I think it's really good to be able to navigate without a coding assistant. But sometimes in projects I use them. So I'm going to go here and just call this default as well. This will reference the bucket up here. I'm just going to say default. And this block is obviously going to be different based on what you're supplying. So I'm just going to comment that out for a moment because we have to decide what is it that we want to do. Do we want to send something to SNS, to SQS, to Lambda, to EventBridge? Personally, I'd like to do all four just so that we get really comfortable with application integration to other services. But we have our bucket here. So I'm just thinking here, I'm going to comment this out for now. And let's go ahead and just go and create this bucket. So I'm going to type in Terraform plan. Okay. And so here we have our plan. I'm going to type in Terraform apply, auto approve. And that's going to go ahead and set up that bucket. So now we have that bucket and it's called what? I'm not sure. We don't have an output on that. So what we can do is go down below here and we'll say output. And I don't remember how to do outputs in Terraform. Let's go take a look here. What's important is that you know that it exists, not that you can remember the code right off the top of your head. So here is an example. We'll go ahead and paste that in. And this will be S3 bucket name. And from here, I want to get AWS S3 bucket. And this will be default. And this will be its name. And that will be its value. So we'll go ahead and do Terraform plan and see if it likes that. The object has no argument, nested block, or support attribute name that. So did I copy this correctly? Yes, it was S3 bucket default. I mean, that looks correct to me. Maybe it doesn't have a property called name and its ID. We can check this by going over to the documentation. And if we get this thing out of the way, we go down to maybe attribute references. Yeah, there is no one called name. It's going to be the ID that we want. So we'll go ahead and save that. I'm going to type in clear. I'm going to go back and do Terraform plan. And it should be able to take my output. We'll let it refresh there. I'm going to go and write Terraform apply. There's not really anything for it to change per se, but it's going to change it so now we have that Terraform bucket name. And if we type in Terraform output, I think that it will then print out all of our outputs. If we do Terraform bucket name, output bucket name, we can get it there. So now we know what our bucket is. The reason why I wanted to do that was so that we can go and find it over here and not try to figure out what the name is. But of course, they always append it with Terraform, so that's really useful. Or at least I think they do. Terraform. There it is. And there is our bucket. I want to go over to properties. And I just want to pay attention to the event notifications here. So what we'll do is first take a look at our bucket. And I want to see if we can turn on EventBridge at the bucket level or at this resource area. And so I'm carefully looking for EventBridge. I'm not seeing it. And also notice that it used to actually have them all contained within here. And notice this is deprecated. So it was more similar to how the CloudFormation had it, right? Where everything was in here. And then they decided, let's abstract these out into their own blocks. Is that a good thing? Sure, why not? I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and type in EventBridge. So that's not there. Let's type in CloudWatch. That's not there. So I don't think that we turn that on in this resource here. Let's go over to here and take a look at what options we have. It's also interesting that we can use different languages. So Terraform can work with CDK to produce Terraform, but allow you to use your favorite programming language. I'm going to stick with Terraform because I think it's a much better language to use. And so what I'm looking for here is the arguments. So we have event bridge. So whether to enable event bridge notification defaults to false. So that's all I want to change right now. So we'll go and uncomment this block that we have here. And I just want this part of it right now. And I'm going to just turn on event bridge and say true. I like how it's auto-completing. That's really nice. And I'm going to go and deploy that and say auto approve. And so now if we go back over to our bucket and we give it a refresh here, event bridge should be turned on. It is good. Now let's go ahead and set up some other resources. So one thing that we will want is maybe an SQS queue and some other things. So let's see what we can do. Can we set up more than one at a time? Let's go look at the interface. I think so, because it allows you to create multiple event notifications. Let's go take a look at how we'd actually do that in Terraform. So that's a special one. Use to configure notification to a Lambda function. Notification to an SQS queue, to an SNS topic. Then we have Lambda function. And then, okay, so then these are the ones expanded here. Okay. That makes sense. So I'm going to go up. And let's see if we can grab some code. So one thing I'd like to have is an SQS queue. So we'll go ahead and grab that. And I'll place that here. If you don't know what these resources are right now, don't worry. We're going to stay in the free tier. An SQS is just a queue. It allows you to send messages to it, and we can look at them. Again, I'd like it to randomly name it, so I'm just going to take that out. I'm going to hope that that works. So we have that. It looks like we are supposed to have an IAM policy document for that. So we're going to go ahead and copy this and paste this down below here. You know, if we're finding this to be a bit messy, we can break this up into separate files. It's not really necessary, but we might do that a little bit later here, just so I can demonstrate to you that we can do it. We have AWS IAM policy document queue. The effect is allow. The principles is for everywhere. It's allowing us to send messages. It's saying for everywhere. We could specify exactly this here, but we'll keep it here because that'll keep it simple. It actually might matter what the name is here. So if we go back over to this, sorry, notice that it has this name here and it matches here. So really the proper way would be to reference that. But the confusing part is that this has to exist before this name would be generated. So we actually probably do have to hardcode a name. So that's what I'm actually going to do. I'm going to go back and add a hardcoder name, or it's going to make the policy really hard to reference. So I'm going to go up here and do I like that name for our queue? Not really. I'm trying to think of an easier name. I'm just going to do S3 EVEQ. I'll just shorten that there. Okay. There's probably some way to include the account ID and the region, but I'm just going to let those be wildcards because it's okay. Then down below here, we need to specify our bucket. So we're saying we can send messages, and the source has to come from a very specific bucket, so that makes it a lot more secure. So that makes sense. And then we are passing that there. So let's go ahead and see if we can create that. So we'll type in Terraform plan and see what happens. And we'll scroll up. Looks good to me. Yep, so we'll go ahead and do Terraform apply, auto approve. And that's going to go ahead and deploy that. I think queues create really quickly, so it shouldn't take too long. And while that is creating, we can go over and take a look at our queue. So we'll go over to SQS. It's really, really important when you're working with AWS not to just focus on a single service, but how it connects to other ones. So again, I'm going to try to include as many integrations as I can to other services when we're working with these examples, as long as it doesn't take super long to create these resources. So I'm over here and I'm waiting for this. Oh, we are in it right now. Okay, so we're in our SQS queue. It's been a while since I've been in here, so there's a few new options. I understand what all this stuff is, but they changed the UI, and they're going to change the UI again on me soon. I'm almost sure of it. AWS just cannot seem to leave that alone. So we created that SQS queue, but now what we want to do is we want to actually create a bucket notification for that. So I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this. And in here, we'll need our topic ARN. So this one here is called, oh, we left it calling it Q. Yeah, that's okay, I guess. Well, this is for a topic. This is for SNS. But we actually want Q. So we'll go ahead and bring that one in here. And I'm not sure what the options are. So we're going to go and take a look here. We should have one here. Here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this block as an example. And it has an ID. I'm not sure why it needs an ID. I guess you can, oh, because you can name the actual bucket notification. And so it says AWS SQSQ, QARN. And when an object is created and it's in images, then it's going to go into that queue. So that is something that we can do. So I'm just looking at this. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll go ahead and try this. So we'll go type in clear. And actually, I'm going to make a folder called Q. And I'm just going to make folders for their appropriate use case. So if we're going to use Q, it'll be there. If it's for a topic, we'll make a folder called topic. And that's how we'll know. And I'm just going to say event Q. Just make this a bit more generic. We'll say Terraform plan and see if we're allowed to do this here. And we'll, looks like it's okay. So we'll go ahead and type apply. What we should be looking at here is if it's destroying objects or things like that. It's not really an issue the way we're doing it, but if we were working in a production environment, we really have to be sensitive in terms of what we are changing. Because it could tear down resources and they could be unavailable for a period of time when we tear them down. So that should now be changed. We'll go back over to S3. We'll give this a hard refresh. And we will take a look and see what we have. So we have our event queue. So we have one there. Let's say I want to create another one. So here's my question. Can I just put it in here or should I create another resource? Because it seems like we should create multiples of these, right? Like that's my thought process there. But the other interesting thing is that we turned Event Bridge onto this one. So it almost feels like a singular block. And that's where I'm not 100% sure. But let's find out and see what we get. So we have a queue. Let's go ahead and create a topic. So we'll go back over here. I'm sure they have one for a topic. It is such a simple example. It's probably right here at the top. So yeah, we have an SNS topic here. So I'm going to go grab this and we'll paste it in here. This is obviously SNS topic. I'm going to just shorten this to EVE and this will just be topic. Could we use the same policy? Probably not. It's actually good that we left this as Q because we're going to need another one. Let's go grab the policy they have to make our life a lot easier. I'm sure it's very similar, but we might have to make one minor change to it. So we'll go ahead and paste that in. And yeah, the only difference here is that this is just going to be default. So my whole like default thing just kind of fell apart. I'm going to start breaking this up because it's becoming a little bit wieldy. So we'll have one for topic TF. We'll have one for Q TF. And we'll have one for Lambda as well. I'm not sure about Event Bridge, but we'll see. I'm going to split this here. And I'm just going to bring some of this code over. So one thing I want to bring over is this topic policy. So we'll cut this out here and paste it in here. And then we can go up to this here and cut this out. And also make sure you're in the right file. That's Lambda. It's a little bit hard when you're recording to keep track of where you are. I'll go ahead and close that out. We don't have anything for Lambda right now. I'm going to just split this, and I want to bring Q over here. Close that out, and we'll cut out this. We'll paste that in. It'd be interesting if we can create multiple blocks of those event notifications, because then we could keep its configuration within the scope of the individualized files. And I mean, if we really want, we can make one for bucket as well. So let's say new file bucket.tf. And then we can go here and just copy the bucket specific stuff out of there. There's lots of ways to organize your Terraform files. You just have to decide how you would like to organize them. So that's starting to work out really good. I'm also noticing that we don't have a git ignore file in here. Oh, I don't think it matters because at this level, we have all that stuff in there. So just make sure you have that git ignore stuff and you don't end up committing a bunch of junk files or large files that are going to be a problem for your repo later on. But anyway, we now have this broken up here, and we have the topic over here. We changed this one, but we got to change this name here. So we'll go here and just say S3 EVE topic. I'm going to go down here and type in clear and type in Terraform plan. And the whole thing with Terraform is that if they're in separate files, it will roll up all the files and treat it like a single file. So you can just do that. You can't do that in CloudFormation. At least last time I checked, you can't. I say that because Cloud is always changing. And they catch you when you don't expect it. So I'm hoping that will create a topic. It looks like it did without issue. I would like to have some more outputs, but I mean, like, the names of these are pretty straightforward, so it's not like I really have to investigate too hard. We'll go over to topic. The interesting thing about topics is that in order to use them, you have to subscribe to them first. So even though we've created our topic, it's not going to work until there is a subscription. So if you go here, so you have to confirm it before you can use it. SNS now supports in-place messaging, archive, and replay for FIFO, which is for SQS. That's cool. So that one's set up. Let's go take a look. Okay, so the question really is that can we put this block here along with that one? So what I'm going to do is just uncomment this. And I don't care about suffixes. I'm just going to stick with prefix here, and this will be for topic. And yeah, we'll do this on object create as well. We'll just do them all on object create. It's pretty obvious you can swap those out. And this one looks fine. So the question is this a valid configuration? Terraform plan. Let's see what happens. And it is suggesting that we're allowed to do this. It's not going to know until we attempt, right? So we'll try this out. Okay, and so it's suggesting that it's added it. So my question, did it add it right here if we give this a refresh? And did it? It did. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that the event name is randomized because we did not provide a name. And I guess that's fine. We don't really need to provide an ID for it. So what I want to do now is I just want to comment out this block because I want to try and see if we can break it up into separate blocks and see if it works. So we'll do Terraform apply auto approve. And what that's going to do is remove that stuff. And while that is working, apparently worked really fast. We'll go double check that by going back over to here and giving this a refresh. And we'll scroll on down. Yeah, that is all gone. That's turned off now. That's great. What I want to do is break this up and see what happens. So there's a couple things I want to break up. One is the event bridge option. So I want to do this. And then I'm going to go here and I'm just going to say event bridge here. And then for this one, I'm going to say topic. And then for this one here, I'm going to say queue. And I want to see if we are permitted to do this. And we're getting some complaining here. Oh, we have to specify the bucket. That's fair enough. Okay, so we'll go here and specify the bucket for each one. All right, and so these are now broken up into 3. We'll go ahead and hit up and say auto approve. And so what I want to see is, will that work? So it seems like you could either use a combination or use it as a single block. It's really important to test these things out as you're working through your code. So we'll take a look here, and did it work? I mean, we have 1. Where's the rest? Did we have a failure? So that didn't work. So now we know that we can only have a single block. So I imagine if we want to have multiple topics, we would just repeat the topic block multiple times. Okay, so that was no good. So we'll go ahead and we will uncomment all of this. Or comment it out, sorry. I'll go ahead and do an auto approve. And while that is running in the background, we'll go back and reassemble it back into a single file. Default. And I'll get rid of these 2 lines and that line and these 2 lines and that line. And so now we're back to normal. And we don't have to, again, specify the IDs. It'll automatically create those for us. But yeah, if we wanted to have 2 topics, we just repeat it twice, I think. But I was hoping that if we had these separate blocks, I could put them in their respective files. It's totally fine if we can't. I don't mind that. We'll go back ahead and do an auto approve. As that is working through, I'm going to go take a look at the Lambda example. So we might have one here for Lambda. SQS, Lambda. And Lambda is going to be probably a little bit more going on there. So I'm going to go over here and open this. And we will grab our code. So we need, we definitely need a policy, an assume role. Do we need an assume role? Yeah, we do. We need an IAM for Lambda. We need permissions for the bucket. We need a function. So yeah, we need all of this stuff. Okay. So that looks all good to me. The major change here is going to be our bucket, if it's even referenced in here at all. Bucket. This one's default. And this all looks fine to me. We'll have to adjust this here because we need to actually supply some information for that. We should probably just do that now and then add it afterwards here. So let's take a close look here. So we have a function. The function can take a file. I'm just trying to think of something really simple that we could implement. Let's go look at Python Lambda example. And yes, we could use ChatGPT for this, but I assume AWS has a very simple Lambda handler function. Okay, can I get a more full example? So yeah, here's a very simple one where we can just apply a couple values. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to, sorry, I'm going to make a new folder here. I'm just going to call this one function. And in here, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call this function.py. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in here. So now we have our very simple Lambda handler. And coming back to our Lambda, our function name is called what? Lambda handler. So we'll go here and just say Lambda handler. And this is going to be for the Python runtime. So we'll go all the way back to the top. I think if I click back, it was showing me the runtimes here under Lambda Python. We want to use 3.1.2 because why not? It's the latest. And so I'll put that in here. Actually, the handler's down here. So the function name here and then the handler here. Oh, you know what? That might be for the configuration we have. So we should really look this up. So what I'm going to do is look up AWS Lambda function. I'm just going to leave this tab open. I don't want to lose it. And we'll go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to look up Lambda. And from here, we'll look for Lambda function. It was Lambda function. Due to the AWS Lambda improved VPC networking changes that began deploying 2019, EC2 subnets. Okay, I don't care about that. We'll scroll on past it. And I'm looking for a Python example if they have one. If they do not, that's totally fine. So I just need to read some of these attributes or arguments because I'm not 100% sure. The unique name for your function. Oh, so this has nothing to do with what your what it's actually called. I'm going to put this, so I hope that it randomly generates. Unless we need it for our policy or permissions. I mean, it grabs the function name this way. So I don't think so. So I'm going to leave out the function name for now. Because this could be called whatever we want. And then we'll take a look at the handler. Back over here. Is the entry point. The question is, what do we call it for Python? The reason why is that when you have JavaScript, you always do exports dot whatever, right? And so that's pretty common, but what is it for Python? We'll go back down to here. We were here earlier, but we'll go check it again and see if we can find what it would be called. So I'm not 100% sure, but you know what? Sometimes what we can do is use ClickOps to get that information. So I'm just going to make my way over to Lambda, and I'm just going to quickly create a Lambda that we're not going to use. We're just going to delete it, but we just want to see what the default would be. So if I go to create function, we can choose a blueprint. There's a hello world here, and this one's in Node.js. I don't want Node.js. I want it in Python. So I'm going to type in Python here. And we'll do this one. This is like a hello world one. So the runtime is this. Architecture is fine. That's okay. I mean, we don't want to do JSON. That's totally fine. I just want to know what the handler is going to be called. So we'll go ahead and create this function. My py function. I'll just call that really quickly. Create that function. And then that way we can find out that configuration. Okay, so we'll go down and take a look here. So somewhere here, it should specify the handler. Here it is. So it says Lambda function, Lambda handler. So the file is named Lambda function, and then it's Lambda handler. So that's going to follow that convention. If we go back over to our code, we have a function. It's function. The file is called function, and then it's called Lambda handler. So this is going to be function Lambda handler. Here it's going to want a zip file. So probably we need to do a little bit of extra work here to provide that zip. So let's take a look here and what it can do. Path to the function's deployment package within the local file system. And we'll go back over to here. And yeah, it still says zip. So the question is there like an easy way to package these files? I'll have to look this up. Packaging a Python function for Terraform. Because we could use SAM CLI to package it, but there's probably some other way that we can do it. This is 4 years old, but it's still probably fine. And they are not really describing much here. Let's go back and take a look. Is that the same person? No. Just give me a moment, we'll figure it out, okay? There might be a way of zipping it with Terraform, but give me a second, all right? Actually, it looks like we don't have to go far because they're using a null resource. And so this null resource, I mean, this is creating a Lambda layer, and it's executing, it's creating the zip. But that's not for our actual function, right? So Lambda layer here, source here. This is again Lambda zip, this S3 object. I'm looking for not the Lambda layer, but the actual Lambda itself. So this is a Lambda function. If I was to look for this, because they're not specifying the locals here. I mean, it is right there. So maybe that's what we can do. We can package it using null resource. I mean, null resource is old, but we can modify that to use something new. Yeah, here they're using null resource as well. Now that we have a unique name for the zip, let's go ahead and create it. So this might be another way to do that. Archive file, Lambda, or sorry, S3, or sorry, Terraform. Maybe we can use something like this. This might be a built-in function. This is deprecated. Use data source instead. Okay. Data source archive file. Okay, it's deprecated, but point me to the new one, please. Data sources, archive file. Okay, so this is the new one. So it looks like we can use this. Do we need a provider for this? It's part of HashiCorp, so it might automatically get included without us doing anything. Sometimes you have to explicitly require them, but I think it'll bring it in here. And so here it says archive a single file, archive multiple files, Lambda function. This is kind of what we want. Archive a file to be used with the Lambda using a consistent file mode. I'm not sure if we have to set a file mode for this, but I'm going to grab this one because this seems useful. I'm going to go down here and paste this in. I mean, I didn't see it in the example code that we were looking at before. Unless it was there and I just missed it. So we'll go up here and paste that in. You can see there's like a lot more work to be done for these for this one here, but that's just always Lambda functions. So here it says source file path.module. So this should be relative to where we are. And then this would be our function. And then we have our function pi. There's actually a little bit more to it because I think we have to include the requirements.txt. However, we're not really doing anything. We're not including any libraries, so maybe we can get away without having it. Then we can specify the output directory. So I can go ahead and here and say function.zip. And we just put it here loosely here. While we're doing that, I can create a new git ignore file. And I just want to ignore any zips in this folder. I'm going to make sure I actually am in that folder. Yes, I am. Sometimes you end up being in a subfolder by accident. But is that enough to work? Because we did look at our Lambda in the other spot, wherever it was here, and it doesn't have a requirements.txt. So that makes me think that we don't need to have that requirements.txt in there. Sorry, especially since we're not utilizing anything else here. So we'll go back over to our code. And I mean, this looks good. And this one's not referencing anything, but let's see if we can go ahead and just reference this. So I'm going to say archive file dot lambda function dot. Do I get a name? Do I get anything else? Not really. I mean, I could also specify the file using interpolation. So we could just do this instead. But it'd be nice if we can reference it, because when you can reference it, then sometimes it'll have dependencies, and it'll make sure it creates that other one first. There's not currently create proper zip archives when sourcing symbolic links. Okay, I'm not worried about that. Can I reference this at all? I mean, okay, this one says archive file. Oh, we just didn't scroll down far enough. So we have output path. So the output of the archive file, that's actually what I want. So let's see if we can go ahead and type that in. There we are. I still can't remember if I have to put data in front of here. That's what I'm not sure, but I'm just going to leave that out and just assume that that's kind of like now a resource. We are getting some errors here. Is not specified. An attribute name function name is required. So it really does want the function name. And I'm just going to call this one Lambda Python S3 events. Okay, so now it actually has a name. And that should create less issues for us. And we should be able to archive that and upload it. And we should have all our permissions. So let's see if this works. That was a lot of stuff going on there. Hopefully you can follow along. Terraform plan. Inconsistent dependency lock. It's because we added this here, so we might have to do a Terraform init, and so it will pull in another provider. If we scroll up here, we can probably see it. Notice it brought an archive, which is what we needed for this. So we'll go ahead and type in Terraform plan. And let's hope that we get something that's useful. The manage archive file has not been declared in the root module. Okay, well, let's try data. I always kind of forget if you have to put data in front of it or not. And that's all it really wanted there, so that was right. And it looks like it's going to create stuff, so I think that's fine. We'll go ahead and do Terraform approve or apply auto approve, and we'll see if it takes that in the uptick there. It did create the zip, so I immediately see that. It looks like it's creating the Lambda without issue. While that's creating, I'm going to go here and delete this one because I don't want to get mixed up and keep looking at this one here. Go ahead and delete that Lambda. I'm going to go over to my Lambda functions. I really should only have one function in here. So there it is. It looks like it's creating without issue. It did. Perfect. We're lucky. And there's our Lambda handler and function. So now we have all those three set up. The question is, what could we do with Event Bridge? Because that's a third one. But before we do that, let's just make sure we add that here as well for our Lambda function configuration. So go back to our code reference for S3 bucket notification. And we were pulling out stuff here for Lambda. In here, there should be one for the bucket notification. It's this block here. Let's go grab this. There seems to be a depends on, so it seems like it really wants to have that depends on in place. And we'll go and paste this below. And we have this allow bucket permission. So it's bringing it from here and it's saying this needs to exist before we go ahead and create that. Maybe it would create a conflict if it wasn't there first. I'm not sure. Maybe we don't actually need it. It's just superfluous code. Sometimes that happens as well. We're going to only do that on folders that have functions. We have AWS Lambda function .funcarn. I think that's fine because I think we just stuck with whatever they called it. So that's perfect. We'll go ahead and write Terraform apply. Auto approve. I'm very confident in this code. We'll go ahead and hit enter. Great, so that is produced that. Let's go back and check our bucket, confirm that that has changed. We'll scroll on down. We'll take a look. Now we have all three. We have our Lambda, our queue, our topic. We still don't have anything for Event Bridge, as I haven't really determined what we should do there. But maybe what we should do is just get all of these three working and have them do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, and we should have a README. We don't. So I'm going to go ahead and say, well, we'll make a new folder called bin. And I just want to create a few things. So we'll have queue. We'll have function. We'll have topic. And the idea here is that I just want to trigger an upload to each of these, okay? And then that way it will configure the event notifications. So I'm just closing out these tabs, and we grab this shebang for our scripts. So we're going to put that in each of these here. And what we want to do is we want to copy a file. We might even want to just make the file in place. I'm just going to go and have a new folder in here called temp. And I just want to ignore this temp directory so we can just create files and not worry about them. So just say temp asterisk, ignore everything within temp. So, but temp will still actually be there. And I mean, we could just make it so it's TXT or JSON. I'm going to make it JSON here, and then we'll just ignore anything that's JSON in here. That way I can make a new keep file in here and keep that directory around, and it won't go anywhere. So we will go back over to our topic. Like, it really doesn't matter. We just want to get any of them there. And we're going to say AWS S3. We're going to pretend that we already have the file here. So we'll say copy temp. Just to make our lives easier, I'm going to drag in the absolute path. So I'm just trying to drag in this .keep file down here. It is not dragging. Nope. I'll drag out Q then. There we go. And I'll just grab this path here. I was just going to assign it to a variable so our lives are a little bit easier. So we'll just say path equals this. And then that way we can say $path / let's put quotations around this. And this will be temp. And then whatever we want the file to be called. So this one will be for topics. So we'll just say topic JSON. And then this is going to get copied to our destination bucket. We need to know what our bucket name is here. Since we have Terraform in here, we can probably get it from outputs. So we can just say bucket. And I can just say $ parentheses. And we'll put in here Terraform output bucket name. I'm going to double check and make sure that is what we called it. So checking our main TF. Oh, that got copied out into the S3 file, right? So we go to our S3 file here, or our bucket file. Bucket, there it is. This one's called S3 bucket name. So I just want to make sure we get that there. I'm going to just test this, make sure it works before I run the script. We'll go ahead and paste this in. Whoop, clear. Terraform, copy, paste, hit enter. Okay, so it does get us our bucket name. That's good. And so I can just go here and say $bucket. I'm going to wrap this in parentheses just so that we don't have issues here. And we want this to go to our topic folder because this is for topic. Before this happens, I want to make sure that we delete it if it's there. So what we can do is we can just say, we can copy the exact same line and do remove. Okay, because I want it on new object creation. And so if we want to run this multiple times, we can just keep running this and we'll delete it and only run it on that case. And yeah, so this looks good. I'm happy with this. I mean, this doesn't generate any data for it. So the assumption is that we already have a file in there. I'm just going to create a file. No, we'll just manually make it here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And we'll go into Q and we'll paste this in here. Whoops. And instead of topic, we'll do Q and Q. And we'll change this to Q and Q. Q and Q. Great, we'll copy this. And we'll do this as well. So we'll say, so just be function and function. Function and function. And the reason I want to do JSON files is that then we can parse it in the function. The other ones don't really need it, but I'm going to do that anyway. So we'll go ahead and say in our temp, we'll make some files. And these are temporary, so they're not going to be here. If you look at my repo, you'll have to create them yourself. We'll have function JSON. We'll have a new one here. We'll call this one topic JSON. We're going to make another one here. We're going to call this one Q JSON. And we'll put some values in here. So for function, we'll do curlies. And this one's going to be hello, or to say first name, Andrew. I think we need to put double quotations around this here. Last name, Brown. Okay. So that'll be that one for that. I'm going to go over to Q next. Oh, yeah, so Q's over here. We'll paste something similar here. I'm just going to say priority 1. We'll say type. Again, I'm just trying to think of something here. We'll say cherry. We'll say name. Sun, gold, select. If you don't know what I'm typing here, sun, gold, select. This is a type of cherry tomato. It is apparently the tastiest cherry tomato. It's an F1 hybrid. If you ever have an opportunity to grow it, go ahead and grow it. You'll be really happy that you did. They're really easy to grow too, and they grow a lot. Okay, so we have that there for Q. For topic, We'll paste this in here. I'll just say priority, email, example at example.com. Again, I'm just kind of varying the data so that we don't have exactly the same thing. And so now we have all our files. Let's make all these files executable so that we can run them. So we'll say chmod u plus x bin and then asterisk. Okay, and so now all those should be executable. We can check that by doing a bin. And so we're looking for that X on here. See that X? So that X is all now applied. If we had done this before, it wouldn't have been there. So now what I want to do is I want to execute each of these and see what happens. So we'll do bin q. And it's saying the AWS command is not found. We might have had an issue with our install. Oh, it happened here as well. There must be something wrong with my my bash script because I must have changed it. I refactored this earlier in a separate video, and I didn't double check if it actually worked. I mean, it clearly works here. I'll just change these out to source. No, I'll leave that alone for now. I'm gonna go ahead and just run this, I guess. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have to do this. It says it's already here and that it was installed, so it should actually work. Okay, yeah. Yes, please. Okay. This is not respecting what I'm asking it to do. Is AWS here? It is. Okay, so then why is it not over here? It is. All right, whatever. We'll try to run this again. Terraform commands not found. AWS commands not found. Why? Why are they not found? They definitely should know where they are. So I'm going to just expand this here. Give me a moment to figure it out, okay? All right, so I did a few sanity checks. What I did was I tried to reload my bash profile, but the other thing that I did is I just took this line and put AWS S3 LS above here, and it actually ran. So apparently there's something that's messing it up, and it's probably this bucket line is what I'm assuming. So I'm going to go ahead and, I guess, change that. I'm not exactly sure what's wrong with it, though. It looks fine to me. What if I wrap it? I noticed the highlighting just changed there. Did it? We'll go ahead and try this. Yeah, it did. Look down here. Oh, no, it just temporarily changed. Anyway, we'll try this and see what happens. We'll hit enter. Still says command not found. So clearly there's something. Oh, I know what it is. You can't name this path. Path is already an environment variable, and everything uses it to find where things are. So we definitely do not want to call this path. That's our problem. So I'll just say work path, I guess. Wow, that is a funny one for me. Okay. Sometimes you just forget. Okay, and so again, hopefully work path is not a reserved path or function, but I want to go back and try Q. I want to do function last. Unknown option S3 Terraform / whatever. I'm noticing that it has quotations around it. So I'm not 100% sure as to why. Maybe it's because I put those on here like this. And we're running Q, so I'm going to go back here. I mean, that shouldn't really be the problem. Let me go back and try this again. No, so it's still putting those quotations around it. So we'll say Terraform output. And then we'll say S3 bucket name. So I wonder if there's like more options for Terraform output. So we'll take Terraform output command. Maybe there's a way we can get it not to have the quotations around it. Sometimes there's a flag. Raw, that's what I was thinking. There's probably that raw flag. Raw. Maybe 2. Maybe it has to appear before that. So we'll just say, yeah, there we go. So what we'll do is we'll just say raw here like that. Raw here as well. Raw as well. We'll go down and type in clear. I'm going to go back and hit up and try to run the queue. It's looking better, right? So now it looks actually like the address. It's still saying unknown option. And I'm not sure why, as, I mean, it looks correct to me. Oh, well, I guess the first thing is that the file doesn't exist, so it makes, oh, you know what it is? This doesn't make any sense, this remove file. We're like, what we want to do is do this, and it doesn't take two parameters. It's because I copied and pasted and I wasn't really thinking about what I was writing. So that's really what the command should look like. And, you know, again, we don't need to have those double quotations around there, but I'm a bit paranoid, so I'm just putting them in there. So we'll go to this one, and we'll try this again. And then this one will be Q. Q. And then we'll copy this one, and we'll paste it in. We'll try function. Function. Good. 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 We'll type in clear down below. We'll go ahead and write Q again. And notice it's deleting. If the object's not there, it will try to delete it anyway, and we uploaded it. So how do we know that our event notifications worked? I have a feeling that they probably have some way for us to track that. I almost feel like you could probably turn that option on. If I click into this, is there something for tracking in here? There must be, right? No? Okay. I mean, if this is being triggered, we might be able to look via CloudTrail. Let's go take a look. Not something that I've been doing too much in here, but we really should be looking at CloudTrail as much as we can. If we go over to CloudTrail, it's already turned on automatically. And so if we go to our event history, it might show us here. I just don't remember how fast it is. Put event notification. So there it is. That's our event that just happened. If I click into it, and we can take a look at it. Actually, no, I don't think that's our event. That's us actually updating it, because the way I know this is that if we go here and we look at AWS S3 CLI, right, and we go into API here, we'll say notification. We have put bucket notification configuration. I mean, unless it is, let me go back here and check again to S3 events. Put bucket notification. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. The reason I'm getting confused is because it looks a lot like it could be the configuration for it. And so we're just seeing the configuration change as opposed to it there. But what we could do is we could just click back a bit and see what we have. And so what I'm looking for here is an event for when the notification changed. 13:08. This is really hard because it's not my, oh, actually this is my local time. 13 would be 1, and the time right now is 1:25. So I don't know how long this will take to update. So it might be that it is happening, but we're just not seeing it here yet, and there's a delay. So I'm not 100% sure. Is Insights in real time? That sounds like a real-time feature. That'd be nice. No, it's an analysis tool. So again, I just wanted to see if there was some way we could see that event happening. But if it's not there, we can just go to what we triggered. So we triggered, I think, the queue. If we go back, I'm going to just close some of our tabs because this is getting a little bit out of hand, all the stuff we have open. And yeah, I triggered the queue. So if we go over, we can check our queue in SQS and see if there's anything in it. So if we go here, we click back, it might show us here, messages available 6. 6? Why is there 6? Messages in flight? All right, that's fine. And I want to see our messages. So last time I remember is that in order to view it, should be able to see it here. Pull for messages, let's pull. Ah, here they are, okay. So here we're getting data coming in. I'm not sure why we have 6 of them. I guess the thing is that we ran that script multiple times, so that actually could be the reason why. It's just that it didn't. Let's go ahead and see what happens if we run this again. So if we run this again, okay, and we go back over to here, and we pull in the SQS here. Do we have more now? No, we do not have more. But let's click into them. Body, attributes, details. Okay. Click this again. Well, here's another question. How many files do we actually have in that bucket right now? If we go over to our bucket and we check it into the queue folder, I mean, we should only have 1 file, right? In fact, oh, it is literally a file. So I wanted it to go into a folder called queue and not necessarily trigger on that. So I'm not even sure if any of this is right. But what I'm really confused about is why is there anything even in our queue? Because I don't feel like we've actually done anything yet. So what I'm going to do is go back to our queue and I want to select all of them and delete them. So we'll go ahead and delete them. I want to pull again and just see if there's any here because I don't want anything. We're still getting messages. All right, just give me a second, okay? All right, so what I think is happening is that we actually haven't sent that many, but it looks like maybe S3 event notification is sending more than 1 event. And so in that case, you're probably supposed to dedupe the duplicates there. Why SQS gets multiples, I'm not sure, but I mean, that is one consideration here. But I did go ahead and delete them. I mean, I don't know if there's any more coming in. I think they're all gone. So yeah, I just think that we're seeing duplicates because it was sending more than 1. And that's fine, that makes sense. So what I want to do is go back over to S3. And I do want to change our code a little bit because it's not exactly doing what I want. So I thought this was going to be in the folder called topic, and then we'd have topic JSON like this. And then if we go here, this one would be Q JSON, and then this one would be function. Whoops. Function JSON. The other thing I want to take a look here is back at our bucket. And our filter prefix is this. We could put a suffix on here as well. Again, I just wanted to only trigger those JSON files. So we'll just go here and type in filter suffix. And this will just be .json, .json, .json. Okay, so that makes it a little bit less, less ambiguous. A very hard word to say. And we'll go ahead and do auto approve. So that's going to go ahead and update that so that it's a little bit less confusing. And we'll type in clear. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and run that queue again. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And so it's uploaded that object there. And we'll go back over to our SQS queue. And we will pull for messages. And notice again, we're getting more than 1. And they're of different sizes. At least we're not getting like tons. But I do think that what we're doing is it's coming from there. I almost kind of wonder if it's actually sending more than 1 kind of object. Let's go back and take a look here at this. You know what it is? It's because we have this wildcard on here and we're sending more than 1 event. So that's probably the reason why. Because it's sending event data for these specific events and we have this wildcard on here and that's our problem. So let's go take a look. I'm glad that I figured that out. We'll go back to our bucket and we're going to go to properties and we'll go take a look at our event notifications. And I want to go and edit the queue and let's see what we have checkboxed. So it actually has all of them. I don't want all of them. I just want it on the post. So when we create a new one, that's confusing because the question is when do we have a post and when do we have a put? So when does S3 use put or post? Because post usually means a new one and put usually means replacing something. Takes data in, applies it to a resource identified by the URL. Here the rules are, okay, that's not very useful. We'll go down below. Post, the response that you get contains the object name. This is useful if you upload multiple objects. Not very clear. But the reason why I'm confused is that if you go to the AWS CLI, I'm not that confused. Like, I know we're going to go ahead and try post first. But if you look here, it's not like you go post object. It's always put object, right? And so that's why there's a confusion. Sorry. Because we're not specifying the method. So I'm not sure if it wants post or put here. Notice put is first. So what I'm going to do, I don't know, I'm going to take a guess. We'll just try to do put. I'm going to update this. But yeah, I guess if there's 4 in there, let's go back here for a second. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we go back over to here. And if we pull again, I mean, we have 2 messages. So did it do a put and a post? Maybe it did both of them. All right, but we'll go ahead and we'll just stop pulling here and we'll delete them. And what we'll do is we'll go back over to our code, if we can find it. And we just want to specify that on the put. So I think I copied it. I did, good. So we'll just do put, and put. And so that's going to make things a lot more clear, right? So we'll go ahead and type in clear. I'll go ahead and auto-approve that. Run that again. That's going to update very quickly. We're going to go back over to our, oh, it didn't like something. So it says creating the S3 bucket, notification operation. The event is not supported for notifications. Okay. For which one? All right, let's go back and swap this out. Instead of doing this, let's just change them one at a time and see what happens. I wasn't expecting that. So we'll go here. That one changed, good. Now we'll try Q, we'll do put. We'll try that. It must accept that one. It must be the Lambda that's erroring out. Excellent. Let's go take a look here and go look at the function individually and see what it will not allow. So we'll go here into our function. We'll hit edit. I don't see why not. It's right here. Maybe I introduced a spelling mistake. I don't know. We'll go ahead and try this again. And we'll hit up. Fine. Okay, so I must have wrote something incorrectly and I just didn't notice it. We'll go back over here and just see what we have for our properties. Put. Okay, great. So we'll go back over to our messages queue. And I mean, it says one's available, but we're going to pull messages here. I just want to delete what's ever in the queue. Okay, and we'll just delete. Let's just keep polling and making sure there's nothing else there. Okay, that looks fine. So we're going to hit delete. And so I'm going to assume that there's now nothing coming in here, okay? So we really should only expect to get one. And I'm pretty sure SQS dedupes them, so like it wouldn't show you multiples, or it shouldn't at least, I don't think. So we'll go back over to here, and what I want to do is trigger the queue. Okay, so that's uploaded. We'll go back over here, and we'll start to pull the messages. So now I only have one. So that is a lot more manageable. And if we click into here, we can see the body of it. So it says event version, event source, S3, CA Central 1, the name, what it triggered on, put, and it looks like we get more information. So we have the response, and it tells us the key. So basically, you know, if we're programmatically working with this, we'd want to pull that information. Let's go ahead and do that right now. So I would probably want to use code to do that with SQS. So what I'm going to do is just make a new file here. I'm just trying to think about this. Yeah, we'll use Ruby because it'll be really easy. So I'm just going to make a new folder here. I'm just going to say code. And we're going to make a new file. And we're just going to say q.rb. And then we're going to cd into that folder. ls clear. And I'm going to say bundle init. That's going to just initialize a gem file in here. And then from here, we will do gem AWS SDK SQS so that we can pull the queue. I'm going to also bring in pry in case we want to do some debugging there. And we'll do a bundle install to pull those gems down. Great, so now we've pulled down those gems. In our queue file, we can go find the code for this. Let's say SQS Ruby AWS. And we'll go into our client. And in here, we should be able to pull messages, right? And so somewhere in here, we can list our queues, not exactly what I want to do, but I want to pull or peek or look at stuff. So I'm going to type the word peek in first. I don't see that there. Somewhere here, we should be able to pull it. Pull. Whoops. Refresh this here. I don't know why I fully selected there. Pull. Receive message. That's what it's called here. Okay, so we'll go back to the top here. Receives one or more messages. There could also be one where, like, you can send messages. We don't want to do that. But you can also just look at the queue or peek onto it. There should be one in here. All right, well, I don't see it. That's totally fine, but we'll click into here. And so we have some code. I'm going to go ahead and grab this code. I'm going to bring it over to our Ruby file, paste that on in. We also need our client at the top. So we'll go all the way to the top here, grab this client. Okay, and we'll paste this in here. And we'll just say require AWS SDK S3, or sorry, not S3, SQS. And then also say require pry, so I can do pry. We don't need to specify any of this because it's going to pick it up in our environment variables. Your environment variables should be set for your AWS credentials, or you need to do some additional configuration here. That's up to you to do. There's a few things in here, like we need our queue URL. So what we can do is update our Terraform to provide that. So under our code here, we should have our queue. And then we can specify that output. I don't remember how to write the output, so I'll go here into the bucket and grab it from here. And we'll paste it in below. And then I'll just close that tab out so it's a little bit less messy. And we'll reopen the queue.py. Or, yeah, where is it? queue.tf. And in here, I want to get our queue URL, because I assume that we can get it from here. We'll have to go back over to the Terraform registry. And we'll click into AWS. And from there, we want to go to the documentation and we want to find queue. So somewhere here, this should be for SQS. There it is. I'm going to go down to attribute reference and we can get a URL. That's how we can get it. Great. It says it's the same as the ID. So that's great. I'm going to go up and find our queue. So it looks like that. I'm just going to copy that line here so it's a bit easier. .q, .id. Okay, and so now we can do a Terraform apply, auto approve. It's not going to change anything. It's just going to give us that output. Terraform plan. Let's see if that does anything. Oh, you know what? I'm in the wrong directory. That's why. So we'll say Terraform apply auto approve. And then that way we can get the queue. So there's our queue URL. It'd be really nice to programmatically grab it from in here in Ruby. We could probably do that using the system command. So if we type in system, there's lots of ways of doing this, but I'm going to just try it this way really quickly here and see if it works. So we have Terraform output raw, and then this would be queue URL. Let's see what that produces. So that does work. Can I assign that to a variable? I mean, great. I don't want the equals part. Let's say get output from system command in Ruby. There's a lot of ways to do it in Ruby. I mean, you can use backticks. That's what I was thinking. So let's give that a go. There's a lot of ways. There's proper ways, but I'm just trying to get it to work. This might not be thread safe, but we really don't care right now. So that's going to work for us. So we'll go ahead and copy that like that. And so we'll just say Q URL. It's really good to know how to integrate things across stuff. So we'll say Q URL. So that will get us that there. Here it says QURL attribute names. We want all the attributes. Message attribute names, I'm not sure what that is. We'll go back over to here and take a look. So we'll go down to receive message. And all values. The name of the message attribute where n is the index. The name contains alphanumeric characters. This is case sensitive. The name must not start with this. I mean, like, I just want all of them. I don't want to necessarily exclude particular ones. So I don't think we need this. So I'm going to comment this out. And then it says max number of messages. 1 to 10. I'm going to just take as many as I can get. So we'll pull 10 at a time if we can. Visibility timeout. The duration in seconds that it should wait. I mean, this kind of matters if you are the received messages are hidden from the subsequent requests after being retrieved, so other people can't do it. I think a lower number is fine in this case. It really depends if you're working with different programs, but there's that. The duration in seconds for which calls waits for a message to arrive in the queue. So I don't think it would make sense to have the visibility lower than the wait in seconds. We'll leave them as 1 second. We'll see if that's okay. I mean, we could increase it to 2 seconds if we really wanted to. Let's just do that. We'll just make it 2 seconds or even like 3 seconds. Receive request attempt ID. What's that? The parameter applies only for first in, first out. I don't think this is a first in, first out queue because we didn't specify it as that. So we'll just take that out of here. And so we're going to get a response. Let's go take a look at what the response could be. Usually they'll show an example response down below. And I'm not seeing one. So we're going to have to use a binding pry and then just figure it out from there. They really should show that, but you know, again, it depends on how well they maintain their code base. So I'm going to go ahead and type clear. And so now we have our little program that can pull from queue. So what I want to do is run this and see what we get. So I'm going to go into this directory here, code, and we're going to run bundle exec Ruby Q RB and hit enter. And it has a syntax error here. It's because we're missing a comma. We'll try this again. We have another error. That's totally fine. Every single time it gets me. We got to include Nokogiri. Nokogiri or Ox or something. Nokogiri is a standard. If you find it's taking forever to install, you can install Ox instead, but it's just an XML parser. A lot of libraries use it, so it's kind of a default thing that should be there. I have to do a bundle install after that. It's airing out on the same problem. And then we'll go ahead and run this again. It was really fast installing this because they already have it preloaded because it takes so long to install. URI must be in ASCII only. So it's saying it doesn't like it there. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste above. Let's go take a look and inspect its value. So we go here and we say Q URL and we hit enter. Wow, that's a mess. It says no outputs found. No outputs found. Okay, so why not? If I attempt this again, do I get the output? Maybe because it can't run it where it is, right? So it doesn't actually know where the path is. That's probably the reason why. A really simple fix is to just bring this whole path in here. So we just drag any file that's here and then just kind of pare it down. So we could do this. And then we could try this and see if this works. Unless there's a way to specify where to execute the command. I'm not really sure. How to execute a command in a specific directory for backticks Ruby. And then they might tell us to do something else. Yeah, so this is the thing that we could have used, which was pop3, and I didn't. But we'll see if this works. Maybe this will just work if we do it like that. It's kind of like a weird hack, but if it works, right? Because it's not the name of the file. I wonder if we could do this. No, that's messed up. Another thing we could do is if we just want to pass it along, we can grab it via the environment variable. So we could just do this, env q URL. And I'm just going to write the command that we'd actually write. So we do q URL. Whoops, I don't want to get rid of all of that. We'll go here and just say q URL equals, and then we'll do this like that. And then what we can do is do bundle exec ruby q.rb. We'll comment that out. And so the idea is that now we can just use this command when we need it. And then this will do the same thing. It's still having an issue, so we'll put a binding pry in here. And, well, I guess the other issue, though, is that, again, this is not in that directory, right? So can we do this? Like, can I do this? Let's see if I do this here. Oh, my goodness. How do we execute a command in a different directory without changing directories? Make a subshell. For an nvar. Okay, well, it seems to suggest that. I mean, can we do that? Let's find out, I guess. I'm going to just run it here loosely first. I'm just going to paste this in here. And I'm just going to, what does this say? End. So we would say cd. I'm going to bring that full path in here again. What a pain in the butt. I didn't want to open that file. It was an accident. I want to go down here and grab this path. And we'll grab all of this. We'll paste it in. Okay, and so now we have this. So what happens if I do this? If I run it here, I just want to make sure it doesn't change my directory. And what if I just do echo on this? Okay, so it actually is doing it correctly. So what we can do is clear this out. Now, my next question is, if I can do that, why can't I just then go back to the backticks here and do that? Because it's in a subshell, right? So if I do this, it can't change directories, right? I can still put a $ on it and it'll still print it out, I think. So let's try this. And, you know, again, I just would rather do this and not have to pass it as an nvar just to save me some trouble. So we'll try this again. Q URL. No luck. What if I just take it out like this? Will this work? Copy the whole line, we'll paste it in. That works, so we'll just do that then. Who cares? Whether you want to do nvars or do that, it's up to you. Of course, hard coding values is not always the best idea, but I do not care. Okay? Like, it just has to do with your use case, right? So it's not always considered bad. So I'm going to type in response, and so now we can see our information. We are definitely getting information. We have messages, so I probably can do response messages, right? And I could probably say size of messages we have. So here I'm just going to say response messages size is greater than 1. Else we can just say raise no question, no messages found. And as long as we can make this a bit nicer. We just say unless, or say if size is 0. Okay, we'll do this instead. And then we can just even make this one line. That way anything below this will just execute. So if it is 0, then just tell us that we found no messages. So we'll say RSP messages each do, and we can iterate through each message. And so each message has a body. That body is looks like it's JSON. So we're probably gonna have to require JSON up here. It's a standard library, so we don't have to include it in our bundle install or our gem file. And so I imagine we'll have to parse it. So I'm gonna put a binding pry here, and let's take a look at what we get for our message. Assuming we still get the message because we pulled it, we'll go ahead and do that. Undefined message here. We need to call this messages. We'll type in clear, we'll hit up. Okay, we'll type in message. Good. And so I want to say message body. Great. And so it is JSON, so we'll have to parse it. So we'll say json.parse message body. And so we're getting information. JSON parse message body. We'll say data. And so the idea here in the data is that we want to get specific information. So what I really want here, just assign that to data here. And so if I have data, I want to try to get this particular part of the record. So I think if we do keys, we can kind of see what we're looking at here. So we have records. It just loves to wrap things around stuff like that. So now I'm getting closer to it. I'm going to say keys again, see what keys are on that. Size. So there's one record. So I'm just going to say first to get the first record. So say data, records, first. I mean, there could be more than one, so we could do this as well and say, do this and say record like this. But we'll pretend that we already have that one. And so then in here, I'm hoping that we have keys. We do. And so now we can get S3. So now I can say record S3. I don't mean to say keys here. We'll just do square. And so now we can see our bucket and our object. So this is providing better information. So I definitely want the bucket. S3 bucket. Good. And then from here we can get the bucket name. So I want the bucket name. And then we'll back up here, and then I want the object. I imagine it's going to be object key probably here. Object key, exactly. So we can go here and say object key. Right? And the idea is that I want to be able to download that file. So we would probably have to go back to our gem file and then go add AWS SDK S3. We'll go ahead and type in exit. We'll type in clear. We'll do a bundle install. You can say, Andrew, do we really need to do all this stuff to learn event notifications? Yes, because this is why you'd be using it to integrate it programmatically. So I just want to repeat here, keep sticking with it because this is super useful for you. It's super useful for multiple certifications. And it's totally pointless to learn this if you don't know how to integrate it into something, okay? So I want to point that out because the video is an hour and 30 minutes in, and we've still got more to go here. So the idea is that we've installed the AWS SDK S3. I'm going to go to look up AWS SDK S3 or SDK here, and we want Ruby. And I'm going to go here, and I'm going to grab this for S3, right? So we'll go ahead and grab that. And I'm going to go back over to my Q code. And I need another client. You should create clients all at the top here together. just take this one out. This one's going to be S3 client, so it's not less confusing. This one can be SQS client. Okay, and so we'll have S3 client. And what I want to do here is just get an object. I'm going to assume there's one here to get object. There we are. And if we go down here below, it's as simple as this. I'm going to grab both the response as well so I can see what I'm looking at. And in here, we'll go ahead and paste this in as such. And now we have our bucket name and our object key. I'm just going to bring this onto a single line so we can keep our code a little bit more condensed. Notice that we have a response up here. We have a response down here. So I'm going to say S3 response so we don't get mixed up. And in here, what we want is the actual body or data of the actual content. So what I'm going to do is put a binding pry here and see if we can kind of play around with that to get it. So I'm not exactly sure what command we need to use for this. So I'm going to go ahead and type in clear. We'll run this again. I'm going to also take this out of here. I think we need to do a bundle install here. A bundle install. And I'm going to go hit up, and we're going to run this queue again. Well, it doesn't like it, and probably because I forgot to include it up here. So we'll go ahead and do that. We will save, we will clear, we will go ahead and hit up. We'll try this again. We have client, so we're getting closer. Remember, we renamed it to S3 client, so we'll have to do that. We'll save this, we'll type in clear, we'll go up, we'll hit enter. There we go. Let's look at the S3 response. And so it's on body. So does the body come back formatted? Some SDKs will do that for us. So it's a string IO, and so for that we type in string to get it. And then we'd have to do a JSON.parse because it's not going to be able to make sense of it any other way here. And so then we can say our actual data that we get from it. Okay, and so I'm going to go here. And I'll just say our actual S3 data. And then I want to just puts it, and I'm just going to puts the data here. And so that's how we would programmatically work with it. Now the thing is we keep receiving the message, but to get rid of it in the queue, we're going to have to delete it once we receive it. So probably over here, there's another command to do that. So we receive messages. What I'm thinking here is we probably would delete the message, or we have to mark it as received. Give me a second to find out, okay? All right, so my guess was correct. It looks like we just have to delete it. The question, or the reason I was confused was because I couldn't see that delete in there, and I thought that there would be one here. So like if we go back up to the queue here, sorry, to here, I wasn't seeing that delete message. And actually now it is here, so that is a little bit less confusing. So what we'll do is we'll copy that code in here, and if we've successfully received it, right, we can go ahead and say paste. And at this point, we can go ahead and delete that message. So we still need that queue URL, which we have. And then there's that receipt handle. So I think in this, we get a receipt handle, but where it is, I'm not sure. So let's go back over to our message here, and we'll say receive. Go all the way back to the top. I can't spell the word receive, so I have to kind of search for it here like a dummy. And so what I'm looking for is that receipt handle, right? So in here, it's on the messages like that. Okay. So the way we'll get that is we'll have to put in message receipt handle. Okay. And the idea is that this will delete the message. And that will continue or complete this portion of our code. Clear. So I can go ahead and run this. We have one little issue here. There's supposed to be a comma here. So we'll do that. We'll type in clear. We'll hit enter. Client delete message. We have to make sure we name it Q client because I think we changed that to, or SQS client there. Yep. SQS. We will type in clear. We'll hit enter and go up. And there we go. So the idea is now if we run this again, we shouldn't see it. Right? So notice that it's hanging. No message is found in the runtime. That triggered on this line here because it found nothing. And it pulled for a while. It actually pulled for the full 3 seconds and it didn't get anything. So it said wait till 3 seconds. We have nothing. So that part of our code is now implemented. That's really great. Let's go take a look at topic. So that one should be easier to do. So we'll go ahead and type in topic RB. We're going to go back to our gem file and we'll update it. We'll say gem, we'll say SNS. So now we can use that. We'll do bundle install to bring that in place. And well, I'm just trying to think about this for a second because the way SNS works is that it has a topic and then it can send it to an endpoint. And for this to work, we'd actually have to have a server to receive that SNS endpoint, right? And so the way we would do that is we need to have a public running server. So we could do that in Ruby really easily. And we could use Sinatra. So we'll say, write a simple Sinatra app. I don't think we really need to do that. We just get a Sinatra example. So let's say Sinatra Ruby example. And we'll get a very simple endpoint. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. Say, write a simple Sinatra app that is going to accept an HTTP endpoint that will pass it application JSON data and then decode the data. Okay. I do have code lying around, but if it can just write it for me really quickly here, that would be really nice. As that is generating out, let's go take a look and see what we need to do to get our SNS working. So go over to SNS. And the one thing that matters here is when we have a topic, we actually have to subscribe to it. So see if there are no subscriptions. So let's go to Terraform and see if we can do that. There might be some way to create a subscription. I'm not sure. Okay, so we'll have to look this up. We'll say create an SNS subscription using Terraform. Whether you should do this or not is another question, but oh, okay, so there was one here. I'm not sure why we didn't see it before. Oh, it's right there, okay. Provides a resource for subscribing to SNS, requires the SNS topic to exist. That sounds fine to me. So you can directly supply a topic and the ARN by hand in the topic ARN. So we can do it that way. Alternatively, you can use an ARN property as the SNS topic and SQSQ. We're not using SQSQ. We just want to provide it to an endpoint. We have a lot of stuff here. What I'm going to pull out is maybe the top example here. And then we're going to go back over to our code. And this is going to be in our Terraform. So we'll go down to our queue. No, not our queue, our topic. And in here, we'll supply this subscription. So go ahead and paste that in. And I'm just going to say default here to make our lives a little bit easier. I don't understand why we can't just reference the ARN here, unless it doesn't provide us an ARN. Let's go take a look here. We'll go back over to here, and I'm going to click into SNS topic. We'll go down to attribute reference. It does have an ARN, so we could just do that. So let's just do that instead. I'm not sure why they don't do that in their example. There could be a reason why. AWS SNS topic.arn. The protocol we want to use is HTTP because we don't want to send it to SQS or somewhere else. I mean, we technically could if we really wanted to, but that seems a little bit silly. We'll go back over to our here, and we'll go back to the subscription, and I want to take a look and make sure that we know exactly what input we can provide here. So the protocol has SQS, SMS, Lambda, Firehose, application. We have a lot of options here. HTTP and HTTPS are also available there as well. I don't know if we want HTTP or HTTPS. It really depends if this is on a secure link. It is. So I'm thinking that we want to supply HTTPS here then. And then there's the actual endpoint. I'm not sure if that parameter changes based on what we input here, so we have to double check. So we'll go down below here. So it depends on what protocol you use, right? Delivers a JSON encoded message. Endpoint is the endpoint ARN of the mobile app or device. Okay, so we'll go down below here to application. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to go search here for an example. They don't really seem to have one here. It also says application is an option, so I'm a little bit confused. So when it says application, I think what it's talking about here is not a webpoint endpoint, and it's actually talking about an actual application. So I don't think we should have application. We should definitely stick with HTTPS, but do we just specify the endpoint? The reason I'm confused is that I'm not seeing the endpoint attribute here. Oh, it's right here at the top. Okay, so we do need an endpoint. And the other thing is that we want a confirmation. So in here somewhere, whether the endpoint is capable of auto-confirming the subscription. And I mean, I'd like it to auto-confirm, so let's go ahead and see if we can do that. So I'm going to put this here and try to put this to true. And then this is going to be whatever our endpoint is. It's going to be whatever our URL for our app is. So let's go ahead and get our Sinatra app going here. And we have a very simple example. Let's hope that this code just works. If you're watching this video, you don't have to write this code. Just go to the repo and grab it and paste it in here to save yourself some time. So we're going to go over to topic. We're going to paste this in. And we have our simple endpoint here, which is for data. This is going to bring in data. It's going to receive it. And it's going to print it out. So to run this, we can run bundle install first. Do we have to also install Sinatra? I do believe we have to. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll say gem Sinatra. Just give me a moment here. I'll be back in just a second. Sorry, I'm back. I was just super hungry, so I just had to go eat something. But anyway, we're coming back to this. And the idea is that I want to run this Sinatra application so that it has a public URL. Now, if you're doing this in a local developer environment, this is not going to work easily because it's not going to have a public URL for the subscription to hit. You'd have to use a tool like Grok.io. And actually, this is a really good service, and I do pay for it. And Grok.io, which what it can do is it can forward a local address, like a local a program you're running, and expose it to an actual address on the internet. But I don't need to do that because I'm already using Gitpod, and another advantage of using cloud developer environments. Anyway, so before we can finish this configuration, we have to have an endpoint here, and we did a bundle install. Let's go ahead and try to run our little simple Sinatra server. So if we go over to our topic here, and we type in bundle exec Ruby topic RB. Oh, it's saying we don't have installed. We'll try to do bundle install. I thought we just did that. Did we not? Did we not add it to the gem file here? I did. Did I not save that file? I'm pretty certain I did. Try this again. Bundle install. I even forgot the L on the end of it and it still worked. And it wants one of these, so we'll just say gem web brick. That's built into Ruby, or it should be anyway. I'll put Puma in because it's better. We'll put Puma in. To you, this is all the same, but I'll just put that in there, and we'll say bundle install. And so that will install Puma. Hopefully that doesn't take too long. Puma is the web server, and then the framework is called Sinatra. Every kind of programming language has their own little micro framework. I'm just using this. So if we say make public, this is now open on port 4567. So I would think, oh, the only issue here is that since this is on port 4567, oh no, this is fine because we get an absolute URL here. So even though it says it's running on 4567, it's actually running on 443 because we get this full address. And the idea is that we want to utilize this data endpoint. So I'm going to grab this whole thing here. And the reason this doesn't work is that it's expecting probably a different protocol. So if we go back over to our topic RB, this is for a post, and this is not a post, right? So This is going to be the URL, and if we restart this Gitpod environment, this value could totally change, so just understand that. If I want this not to be so variable, I could grab the information out of the envs here. So I could do this and say grep and say AWS examples like that, and I could get the Gitpod workspace URL here, and I could technically supply it. It's a little bit different though because it has this 467 in here. So I could do that. The other part of it is I could grab where it says WSUS107. Maybe there's a separate a variable for that. There is. So like what I can do is I can grab this environment variable and I can I was trying to think, like, I was thinking this was Ruby here for a second, but actually, you know what? It's just going to be easier to copy paste this every time when we make a change. So I'm not really going to worry about that. But anyway, let's say we wanted to actually test this to see if it's working. We can do a curl, and let's just go ask ChatGPT to do that. So write a curl that is a post that passes some JSON, and its content type is application JSON, which is what we expect it to be. So we'll go ahead and do that. So that should be an example that we can use. It's pretty straightforward. It's just I cannot memorize curls to save my life. So we'll go ahead and paste that in here so we have an example of it. And so this is kind of an example of a curl that we want. You obviously have to have curl installed here, but we'll go ahead and hit enter. We're getting a 401 or 403 because we actually have to utilize the correct address. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. We can make this a bin script. We'll just say like test server, and then we can make this a little bit more flexible. Let's go ahead and copy this. I'll paste that in here because we should make sure our server works before we attempt to use it. Otherwise, we'll be scratching our heads and not knowing where the problem is. So I'm going to assign this to a variable up here. And actually, this is a case where we can bring in those environment variables. So remember we had this. We could technically take the host name here and replace it here. So say host name, whoops. Host name. I'm going to go with Gitpod workspace ID. Again, this is only working for me because I'm on Gitpod. If you're using something else, you're just going to have to figure it out. That is what you get for not using the same thing as I'm using. And what was the other one called? It was like env grep, and that was US 107. So that's that cluster host. And so I'm going to replace that like that. And then I'll put a $sign on it here. I remember it doesn't really like it when we have these periods and stuff. It can sometimes mess up. I have to go do a test here and see what happens. So I'm going to go and do an export on this. Whoops, clear. And so we'll just copy this and we'll say, I didn't want to type export, I meant to say echo. I just want to make sure that it's printing it out. Notice that it is, it's correct. Yep, that's good. Okay, so now we have our URL and it'll go to the data endpoint. So now I can just pass it in here instead like this. I'll uncomment that. I'm going to do a chmod on our bin test server here. We'll have to do U+X on that. This is in our S3 event notifications directory. We'll chmod that again, U+X bin test server, and we'll type in clear. And so now I should be able to test our running server. I believe it's still running. If we go back over here, it's on 4567. It's public, it's open. So I'm going to do this and see what happens. And notice it says data received and processed. So that is what should be returned back here. So that's how we know that it is working. So with this SNS topic, the idea is that we are going to get the data, right? And we want to provide this endpoint over to our topic here because it needs to, in order for it to register, it's going to send a request, and it needs to get a request back for this to confirm. HTTP confirm request SNS, because it might need something in particular. Before you configure, your PHP code needs to create a header called message type from the request process it is based on. Okay, and so now, so they're talking about PHP. This person's showing an example, looks like in Node.js or JavaScript. You can obviously have different variants here. So in this one, it is confirming, so we have this / here, post, and then it's checking the payload type for subscription confirmation. So can our Sinatra app confirm a subscription for SNS? S3 SNS. Maybe I'll just save us some time if we just ask it to do it for us. Okay, yep, that's great. Just show us the code. Now, I don't know if it actually has to go to SNS. Set up a route in your Sinatra app, extract the thing. If the message type is subscription, extract the subscription URL. But does it have to go to the same place? Because this one here is just going to root. It's not going to like a different endpoint. So I would think that we'd have to do that. Do we really have to include net HTTP? I'm not really sure if we really need to do that, but I'll put it in anyway. I believe that is a built-in library. So we'll put that in there. And we'll see if we can incorporate this code. Again, you know, you don't have to watch this. You can just copy paste it. I have no idea what rewind does. I've never seen that before. And we'll just go ahead and do this. Say body to rewind. It is parsing the data there. And then we have, oh, using net HTTP here, get response. All right, sure, why not? And I'm going to copy this here. And we will go and paste it in here. Now, is that in the actual, oh, it is in the body. Okay, great. So I'm just trying to decide where to put this code. And so it seems like we really should first put this here, like that. And the thing is that we really only need to confirm the receival of data here. Just going to put that so we can see what we're getting back. Actually, it's not puts, it's just what's going to get returned. And this one is going to be in the notification. So the notification is we received the message. And then this one is we confirmed the subscription. This one will raise an error saying unknown type. And down below here, we get the URI. So that's what it returns. It returns a response back to that URI. I guess that's how we have to do it for Sinatra. In other apps, it's a lot more seamless, but that's just what it is. So that code looks okay to me. I'm going to go ahead and stop our server wherever that's running. It's over here. I did Control-C to stop that. I go back and hit up. Notice that I don't have to use any kind of library in here, so I don't have to use SNS to confirm it, even though we did include that library. There could be something in the code to confirm it. But I think when you're doing HTTP, you should really confirm that way. So we really didn't have to install the SNS library into our gem file. That wasn't useful. Anyway, so here it's really dependent on the SNS message type. So our curl's not going to work anymore because it needs to actually pass a subscription type. So we'll go back to ChatGPT, update our curl command to pass the subscription, the expected header for the SNS message. So now I'm not really sure here because we have SNS message and it has the type here. I thought it was going to use the header though. If we go back over to here into the documentation, No, it's in the payload. It says payload type description confirmation. So it's there, right? But what about the actual payload? That's what I'm not 100% sure about. So what we'll do is we'll require pry in here. I just really don't know what we're going to get here. And I want to see what we're getting. So I'll put a binding pry here. Hopefully it'll work in that begin and stop. And I got to stop this and restart it. And so now let's go back over to our Terraform code, to our topic. And now we can try to provision this because we have all the information to do it, and this should try to auto-confirm it. And we need to go to some other tab here because we're kind of running out of tabs. And we're going to go into our our S3, our event notifications. And we'll do an ls and do a clear here. And I'm going to go ahead and try and run this. We'll say apply auto approve, clear, Terraform, apply auto approve. Holy smolies. Okay, let's try this again. Terraform. Great. Terraform, apply, hyphen, auto approve. It's going onto a new line and I have no idea why. It's just mucking up. It's really annoying. But it's working, so that's fine. And we're changing some things there. So we're just waiting. It's creating it. I'm not sure if it's attempting to try to confirm. So that might be the issue we're running into here. Oh, you know what? We have a binding pry here. So it actually is working. We can go here and look at the data now. And so that's how it comes in. So I'll just type in exit here, exit. I kind of forgot that it was doing that. So it was attempting to confirm it. And if we look at our data, we have type subscription or message ID, our token, the actual message. So that's just for confirming though. Undefined local message SNS message. So I think it's because this is called data. So we'll just have to change this to data. And maybe it'll try it again. Our server's not running anymore, so we'll have to just take this out here because it's going to keep trying, eh? I got to type exit here. We'll clear. And we'll go back and hit up. We'll try this again because it might be still attempting. So it actually failed and it stopped. So we'll go ahead and we'll hit up and we'll try this again. So this is starting this up and we should expect this to complain. It actually is going very quickly here. We got a post. It returned back at 200. So I'm assuming that the subscription worked here and it fired this one here. We'll go back over to here and it looks like it created. So it was able to confirm it. So our code is working. That's really cool. So now the next question is, if we are to push our code, will we get a response back from here? So we'll go ahead and run our bin topic. We'll hit enter. We still have a small little issue here. It must have some old code as it's complaining. We must have changed something here. Let's go and compare. It looks fine to me. Terraform command not found on line 4. Here. What is wrong with it? So Q definitely works. I'm going to copy these lines. And I'm going to paste these lines in. Work path. This one still has path in it. Okay. I thought we updated these. Maybe it didn't save. All right. And we'll go back and hit up. And so notice that it created the object. We're going to go back over to this tab. And it looks like another post came in. Right? So that's good. It didn't print it out. And I think it did work. The reason it didn't print it out is because this is overtaking everything that we want to see here. So if we really want to get that output, we could just write it to a file, I suppose. So I'm going to go into Sinatra. Because we don't have any logs, right? So in its essence, we're going to just create a log file. Like a really simple, dumb log file. And what I want to do is I want to dump the JSON to a file. So after we get the data received, which is not printing to the screen, we can just dump it to a file. So I'll say file.open. We'll just say write a Ruby file and just get some quick code here. I'm looking for the block. This is a really good example. I'm going to copy this one here. And I'll just go ahead and paste this here like this. And all I want to do is write the contents of this. So we'll say data. So we can see all of the data, right? And this is JSON data. So I'll just say JSON. And, you know, again, to make this really easy, I'm just going to drag out a path. So we have this folder here. I'm just going to drag out any one of these files. We'll grab this here, copy it. We'll paste it in here. And so that will get us our log file for here, okay? And so it should write the contents there. So we'll restart our server. We'll go back to another tab. We'll run it again. Whoops. Unknown type. So now we're getting an unknown type from the server. Unknown type. I'm not sure why we didn't have that before. If we get an unknown type, let's just go here and take a look. So I'll try this again. Oh, sorry. This is for testing our server. We don't want to test our server. We just want to run that script. I think we had it over here. That's why. So we'll go to bin topic. So that's going to trigger it. We'll go back over to here. And we got a post. I think that's an old error, so that doesn't matter. I think this one worked. We have a log JSON file, so that's not something we created. It's, it was created by our server is what I'm trying to say. It'd be nice if this is a bit prettier. It's really hard to make sense of this file. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And we're going to tell it to pretty print it. So we can do that by parsing the JSON. So, I mean, the JSON's already been parsed, but it's like JSON pretty generate, I think. JSON pretty Ruby. There it is, pretty generate. So that's what we want. So we'll go here and we'll go back and I'm just going to go ahead and do this. JSON again. So we're turning it back into JSON. And then we'll write it to the file. And this will make things a lot easier for us to read. So I'm going to stop the server, restart it, wait for it to restart. I think it's running now. Good. We're going to go back here, hit enter. Okay. And we'll go back over to here. And we'll now check our new log file. And now it's a lot easier to read. And the reason why we want to do that is we want to see where the data is. And we can see it right here in the messages. So if we want to work with this, we would then have to parse this part out, right? And somewhere in here, it has the key, right there, okay? So I'm not going to go through all that bother there. We've done enough with this. It was more so just how would you get to this point? You kind of get that idea. Let's go take it at our Lambda. I don't think we're going to do Event Bridge this time around because it's going to take too long. But and we obviously have Event Bridge for separate sections, so we can do it there. But let's finish off our Lambda function as that one is already set up. It might just already work, or we might just have to tweak the code a little bit. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and trigger it and see what happens. So I'll go ahead and type in clear, and we'll do bin, and this one will be for function. It'll hit enter. Still in the file, creating the file. So now we have to go over to our Lambda, and we'll take a look at that. So go here, and we'll look up Lambda. And we'll go into our Lambda. And in Lambda, what we'll have is we'll have the option to look at logs. So this should have logging built into it. They keep changing the interface on me. So I used to know that it was right here. Now it's over here under monitor. And we'll click into view CloudWatch logs. And so if it was triggered, it will show some logging information here. We'll give it a moment to load. It says a log group does not exist. That's not good because if there's no log group, then that means nothing has been triggered. Okay, so we really do want this to trigger to finish off our application integration stuff here. So I'm going to refresh here. I'm going to carefully look and see if it maybe reappears now. Because it could have been a delay. No, there's no delay. It's just not being triggered, I don't think. But you can see it has an incoming trigger from here. We can click into it and see what it is. This is going to be when it's on the function and there's a prefix of JSON. So if it's not working, we should double check our repo and make sure that file is there. Because maybe it's not there. Notice if we refresh, we have function Q topic. We'll click into function. FNUCTION JSON. So that is appearing there. So that is good. But I guess the question is, why does the Lambda not trigger? We go back to monitor here and take another look here. Your function does not have permission to write to CloudWatch log, so that's our problem. So the thing that they gave us does not even have the most basic permissions. So we're going to have to go back to our Lambda here, and let's take a look at the permissions we got. And our permissions are where? This is for the assume role, which is fine. IAM role, IAM for Lambda. This can invoke the function. And it's this one up here. So this one doesn't have the ability to do that. So let's go over to Lambda and see if we can just find that code. Here. As they should provide the example. So what I'm looking for here is a more verbose example of the IAM rule. Okay, so I'm carefully looking through this file. And this is what we want, is the CloudWatch logging permissions. So here we have a variable name, we have a test lambda, and we have CloudWatch log group over here, and then we have lambda logs. So this one actually creates a log for us. And then we have lambda log here. And then we have our IAM policy. So it has all our code here. So the first thing that we want is we want to attach, so we need this one, but we need to also attach a policy. So I'm just carefully looking at this here, lambda logging. Yeah, we'll go ahead and grab all of this code here up to here, and we'll copy this. And we'll go make our way back over to Gitpod, or Cloud Developer Environment. And I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. I'm just going to make a marker here so I can keep track of what I'm doing. This might get a little bit messy. And so that's where our marker was. I'm just not confident with our marker, so I'm just going to go ahead and put 3 lines here. This is optionally to manage the CloudWatch log groups for the Lambda function. If skipping this resource configuration, also log group IAM policy below. Yes, I don't think that we need to do that. It should automatically create the log group, but I'm not sure if that gets referenced anywhere here. It's also saying this is optional. Yeah, I'm going to take this out. I don't think we need that. So here we have AWS IAM policy document lambda logging. So we'll go up to this one. I'm just carefully looking. I'm just seeing if I can merge it into the top one here. So this one's lambda logging. This is IAM for lambda. Why does this one not have the same stuff? Name, assume role policy. Give me a second to think about this, okay? So here's where my confusion occurs. So we have the lambda function, and this is getting assigned a direct role in our example. In their example, they don't assign a role whatsoever to it. It's saying it's depending on these other ones. So to me, it's my assumption that one of these is attaching to lambda. But when I look through here, I'm not exactly seeing that attachment happening. And that's where the confusion comes from. So, you know, we can see that we have these lambda, like we have a policy document, we have a policy, we have a role policy attachment, but how does it actually associate with that lambda? And that's where my confusion comes from. So, you know, I'm just going to kind of ignore what's going on here, and I'm going to have to just kind of actually go ahead and We're going to have to go ahead and just delete this part and try to modify and look up how this implementation works. It's just because we have poor examples to work with. So what I want to do is look up the IAM rule. So that's what I want to look up here. So let's go look that up in Terraform. So let's say Terraform registry IAM rule, as this seems to be what's going to help us out. And here we have the assume rule policy. That's fine. And I just want to see if we have both of there. Yeah, so here it's getting the assume rule policy, and then we could just have our inline policy. So I think that's kind of what I want to do. I just want to grab this inline policy and make our life a lot easier. It looks like we can also do the other one inline as well. So like if we go back over to this one, notice that the assume rule is also inline. It just makes it a lot less confusing when they're not broken up into separate ones. There's really no reason for us to do that. We don't need that level of modularity for this. So I'm going to go here and take a look and see if we can copy this over. So this should be here. We'll grab that, put that down here for a second. Let's go back and check. I mean, it's really similar. I'll go grab this here. We'll have to kind of modify this a bit. I know it's getting a little bit messy, but there's really no other way around this. So that's fine. The statement here is fine. The assume rule is fine. That's the action. The allow is correct. I don't care about a SID. We don't have to do anything for that. The only thing that's different here is the principal. So we have the principal. We are doing a service. And its identifier would be lambda. So I think this would be the equivalent for this. Again, I'm guessing here, but I'm pretty sure this is what we need to do here. I'm going to take this one out here. And so to me, that's a lot more clear. Okay. And then we have our inline policy down below here. And in this, and we can bring in over the permissions that we want to have. So we saw this for here that we need these three. So we'll go ahead and grab those. And I'm just going to go and paste it in as such. And just bring this into multi-line here. Okay. And again, just carefully looking at this. And we'll go back over to here. Here we're saying for any resources like that. So I mean that kind of makes more sense. Probably should just pare it down to logs here. So this will be arn AWS logs colon asterisk colon asterisk colon asterisk. So 3 of those, basically for all logs. So it's really flexible there. We'll go back over to here. That is set. So I think that's all we really needed in this here. Okay, so I think this will fix it. I know that was really complicated. The thing that's really frustrating me is how many of these we have, because I can't really keep track of these very easily. So I might go here and just say like resource. This one's inline policy. Just so that we can kind of keep track a little bit better here. This is statement. This is JSON encode. We'll just say policy equals JSON encode there, or just JSON code. And that way we're not going to get mixed up and think we're missing anything. So I'm going to go ahead and type in clear. And let's go back to our Terraform. Now we don't need this server anymore, so I'm just going to stop at typing clear. And I'm going to make sure I'm in the right directory, and we'll do Terraform init. We didn't change anything, but I'm just out of habit. I'm going to do it. We'll do Terraform plan, and we'll see if we wrote our Terraform correctly to take that in the uptick. It's not complaining about anything. That is good. We're going to do a Terraform apply, auto approve, and we'll send that up there. Great. So no problems there thus far. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Lambda. Let's make sure that our permissions actually are what we think they are. So in here, we should be able to see that. Now, we were getting that warning right here, right? And that warning's now gone. At least it looks like that's the case. Somewhere here, we should be able to check our configuration and look at our permissions. So if we go here, now we actually have those permissions in place. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to our Cloud Developer environment, and we're going to go back and attempt to trigger that function again. So deleting the file, creating the file, we're going to go back over to our function code here. We'll go to monitor, and then I'm going to open up View CloudWatch logs, and fingers crossed that we get some logs here. Please, 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 please. Please, 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 please. We got some logs. That's excellent. We're going to click into here, and notice we have an error. It says key name first name not found. That's because our function isn't really that useful. The idea is that we are just accepting an event payload from S3 event notifications. So what I'm going to do is go to ChatGPT. I'm going to supply it our code. I'm just going to ask it to rewrite our function. So I was going to say, can you write a S3 Python Lambda function that is going to receive event data from S3 event notifications and just print the JSON result of the events. Okay. I was going to supply it our code, but I think it probably can provide us something very simple. Yep, and that is the simplest code you can get. Yep, that will work. That looks good. So we'll go ahead and we'll copy that. I don't know if we have to have a requirements for JSON. We'll say, does JSON require to be included in requirements.txt, or is this something that is built into Python? Because I really can't remember. We'll give it a moment to stop writing for a second. There we go. Part of the standard library. Okay, great. That's all I wanted to know. So we don't have to do anything extra. We'll go back over to our code. We'll go into our, can you feel we're almost done, right? We're at the home stretch here. I'm going to delete this function file. We're going to go into our function py. We're going to replace this code here. I just want to make sure that we know that this is running. So I'm just going to put a print here. I'm going to just put something fun. So we'll just do like this. Or we'll just say, hello, like that. We'll save that. So we have our new code here. Let's see if Terraform can pick up that change. No changes. So it's saying that there are no changes, but the thing is that there actually has been a change because we've changed the code here. Force change update for Terraform for archive file. And that's probably the reason why it doesn't know that it's changed. I assume that in case you're executing this, we've all experienced this issue here. I'm just looking for a workaround. That's fine. If you don't know a workaround, I suggest one of the followings. It looks like they're trying to use a random ID. There's in Terraform, there's the idea of like there's null resource and another one there where we can force a change, but I'm not sure how much that's going to help. So I'm just trying to think about how we can force that change there. And all they're doing is they're just randomizing the value. So we could do that. We could use random UUID, and then we could append it to the name when we archive it, and then we could just specify it there. And I mean, that could help force the change. So I'm just thinking about this here for a second. I mean, why can't we just change this? Let's just change this. We'll just say like 000. Because, I mean, that should work still, right? It just has to have a property that it watches on. Yeah, so that's the way we can bust it. Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and type in apply, and we'll say auto approve. And we'll let that deploy. I'm going to assume that's going to update the code in place. This might take a little bit of time, so I'm just going to pause here so you don't have to... oh, wait, no, it's done. That was really fast. So let's go back to our Lambda. We're going to give this a click here, and I wonder if it'll give us a preview of the code. When you use a zip, it usually doesn't, but if it's really small, it will. And we can see our new code's in place, so it's there. So it definitely should work. Let's go back over to our Lambda, or sorry, our Cloud Developer environment. We're going to go ahead and hit up. We're going to trigger this again. And the idea here is we want to see if we can get that output. So we'll go back over to our Lambda. We'll go back over to monitor. We'll go into our CloudWatch logs. And then we should have a new log file because we did do a major change. So and there's been a bit of time, so there should be a new log file. Sometimes it'll be an existing log. It just depends on a few factors that I cannot remember. This date looks newer, so we'll click into that one. And notice it's printing out all the results. Okay, so, you know, we could parse that and work with it and get the data out of it. I don't really care. All I wanted to do is to make sure that you have good application integration skills. Functions, queues, topics, those three are very important. EventBridge is something that's really cool. We'll have to look up at that in another video. But since we're done here, what I want to do is tear down all this infrastructure. And because it is Terraform, it should be very easy. We just have to do Terraform destroy. But before we do that, well, let's see what happens. Because I want to know if it'll empty that bucket for us. I think it's smart enough to do that for us. In CloudFormation, it would complain, but I think Terraform's a bit smarter. I'm just going to do auto approve so we don't have to wait around forever. I'll hit enter. And it's destroying everything, looks good. So it did have an issue with the bucket. And it needs us to delete all the stuff in the bucket first. Of course. I was hoping that it would just take care of it for us. There could be something in Terraform that might do that for us, but didn't look into it. So we'll go ahead and say delete, permanently delete. This should empty the bucket out. Good. We'll go back over to here, try this again. It's always those non-empty buckets. There we go. Everything is torn down. And yeah, hopefully you learned a lot and that wasn't too hard. But yeah, super, super valuable to know application integration, S3 event notifications, super useful, often used functionality of S3. And we'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.